skip radio with the Bristol S-Gauge Railroaders. The name Bristol comes from Bristol County, Massachusetts. We're not Bristol, Connecticut, like a lot of people think. But this club was started back in 1948. We're the oldest S-Gauge club in the world. We have a club-owned modular layout system here. It's about 18 feet long, 10 feet wide. We run code 148 track on it, so we can run American Flyer trains on it. It's the minimum height that you can get away with, and we run the American Flyer trains on the inside, and we run S-scale trains on the outside. The two steam engines here are Norfolk and Western Class A. They're brass engines manufactured by Agent in Korea. They're originally imported by Overland Models, now being sold by River Raisin, what few are left. The stuff on the inside track here is old American Flyer, Hudson 332 AC, some of the old plastic American Flyer Pullman cars. And we have some scale model cars on the inside here, scratch-built scale cars. A couple of brass River Raisin E8 diesels. We run the gamut here of tin plate and scale stuff. I've been in this sport since 1955 or so, when I got my first American Flyer train set. And I kind of had American Flyer up until about 10 years ago when I switched over to scale, and now I do both American Flyer and scale. And we enjoy doing the shows here. We've been here every year for quite a number of years now. I can't tell you exactly how many, but I've been here 5 or 6 myself, and spend 2 days behind the counter here answering people's questions and talking about trains. It's a good way to spend a winter.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, the Bristol S-Gauge Model Railroad Club is sponsoring the Royal S Circus, which you see moving in front of you. My name is Bill Boucher. The circus is the result of my efforts to try to preserve in miniature what railroad circuses were at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. People growing up today can relate to the truck shows, they can relate to the television circuses, but there are a lot of people growing up that have never seen a railroad circus. Some of them have never even heard of them. The railroad is what made the three-ring circus possible. There just was no way you were going to bring this much equipment over 19th century roads to rural America. In an age that knew no TV, no VCRs, no record players, no hi-fi, the circus was the only contact with the outside world with a lot of people. There was one time in this country when there were 38 railroad circuses touring on upwards of 300 cars. The only one left now is the Great Ringling Aggregation. And what I've tried to do is portray the circus as it looked in the era from about 1925 to about 1939, the pre-World War II era. The average show train was made up of 3 parts. There were the long animal cars that you see here, which carried the draft horses, horses that pulled the wagons to and from the train to the showgrounds. The elephants, which had a car of their own. It was a little different from the stock cars because the stock cars have slatted sides. The performing horses, the camels and zebras. The first section of the train carried the dining department, the menagerie department, and the parade wagons. The second section of the train would have carried all the equipment needed to set up the big top. The big top wasn't needed until the afternoon and evening, so it traveled second. The seat wagons, the electric generator wagons. The third section carried the sleeping cars for the working men and the performers. And of course a caboose on the tail end because the show trains were classified as freight trains and you needed someplace for the freight crew to ride. What you're looking at in this train does not come from kits. It is not available commercially. All of this equipment is handmade from scratch. Basswood, tin can metal, cardboard, paper, plastic, whatever lent itself to the job at hand was what was used. The lettering is typical of the lettering on the show trains of the era. Modesty was not a characteristic of a circus owner. He usually had his name plastered in as big a letters as he could get on the side of the cars, so they were readily identifiable. But this is what we've tried to do, and what you're looking at today, this train generally, because of its length, has to be run in two sections. Most model railroads will not accommodate it in one section. But thanks to the courtesy of the Bristol Club and their wonderful layout here and their patience, we've been able to put this thing together and run it as one complete train. In prototype, it would have been one complete train. Most circuses could handle 20 to 30 cars in a section. Circuses traveled in multiples of 5 cars. The reason being that was the way the railroad freight rates were set up. It cost just as much to move a 30-car train as it did to move a 26-car train. So you went to 30 cars. And at a time when most railroad cars were 36 to 40 feet long, the circus cars were 70 feet long. Again, the rate structure was based on the number of cars. Well, a 20-car train of 70-foot cars would carry as much as 40 or 50 cars of shorter length. So we try to, as I say, present a little bit of American history. Some people record history in photographs, some record it in paintings. So we've tried to do is record it in 3 dimensions, and that's what you're looking at. Because the show was intended to be available for static display as well as a rolling display, we felt that it would be a good idea if all the wagons were made to operate in as much as possible, something in that smaller scale. If you look at my hand, you see the comparative size of these wagons against a human hand. This was the dining department's cookhouse wagon. It carried a steam boiler, and it provided steam for the steam kettles and the water heaters that you see inside. When the show first arrived on the lot in the morning, this was the first tent to go up and the first department to be in business. It was also the first one off the lot at the end of the day. Everything folds down. The whole thing can be packed off to the train before the afternoon show was over. The individual cage wagons, this one is the snake den. The snake dens traditionally had glass sides rather than bars on the side as do the other animal dens. But this is typical. I don't know whether it really looks like a python, but nobody has ever come up to me and challenged me, so unless I hear from the National Geographic Society to the contrary, that's the way it's going to stay. The stake driver is an early power unit designed to drive stakes. Traditionally, circus stakes were driven by a crew of up to 15 people using sledgehammers. And in the 1920s, the Hagenbeck-Wallace Circus canvas master developed a stake driver. It is powered with a small gasoline engine which drives rollers at 3 different locations on the wagon frame through a sprocket and roller chain similar to a motorcycle drive. It's basically nothing more than a pile driver. The individual hammers have a piece of sheet steel at the top. When the handle is pulled on the side, the rollers are squeezed together. They squeeze the steel and lift the hammer. When you release the handle, the rollers separate and the pile driver drops. They can drive 3 stakes simultaneously with 3 men instead of 1 stake at a time with 15. The seat wagons, which are the forerunner of today's seat trucks, were also developed by the same gentleman from Hagenbeck-Wallace Circus, where it used to take a crew of 10 men 20 minutes to set up a section of bleachers. With this arrangement, 6 men could do it in 4 minutes. The whole wagon is designed so that the sections merely fold up, the seat backs fold down, the footboards fold up to keep the seat backs from flopping open. There's a section that fits across the wagon bed. The ends of the wagon are removable to allow the seats to be extended up and out. And when it's time to put it away, the whole thing just folds up and is clipped into place in the side of the wagon. It's not hard to imagine the amount of labor that something like this saved. All the individual parts fit into place. The individual jacks on the back of the seats support them. It was a tremendous labor-saving device. I can honestly say I've had one heck of a time building the show. I hope it's as accurate as I can make it. There are probably purists out there that'll find things that I could have done differently. If I live long enough, there's another 5 cars coming. But it sure beats television when it comes to something creative. Keeps you from being a couch potato.